Welcome. The emphasis of today's practice is spending yin time in all the different orientations of these particular leg postures known as hand to big toe poses. So there's the central pose, there's the externally rotated version, and finally the spinal twist, moving the leg over in 3 different orientations. And we have 2 legs, so there's 6 ultimate residing times, and we'll reside in the postures for roughly 3 minutes, i.e. yin time. And although this exercise may seem familiar to many of us, probably most of us don't normally hold this posture for that long. In which case, one idea is if you have a formal yoga strap that's very long and that can buckle, there's a way to do this posture that releases your arms so your arms don't get tired. If you don't happen to have one of these, that's okay. You'll just have to hold your leg with some other kind of strap or belt device. I'm using a towel here just to show that you can get creative and use whatever you may have around you. However, you may not want to hold these postures for the full 3 minutes. You may only want to hold them for 1 or 2, just to make sure that your arms don't get tired here. So gather up or find your particular strap that you want to use for this. And those of you that are really flexible, it might be obvious you don't need a strap. You can actually go ahead and grab your big toe with your hand and just use that for a strap. Because of the nature of the hand to big toe poses, we'll be lying on our backs for a significant portion of the practice. So I thought for a quick warm-up, initially, we'll make our way onto our bellies in a prone position for a quick thigh stretch in the front of the thigh, since the hand to big toe poses usually get into the backs and the sides of the leg. So make your way onto your belly. Sorry if you were already ready on your back here. So have to kind of switch it up. Come into a Sphinx pose. So bring your elbows underneath your shoulders, shoulder width apart. Legs are extended out behind you, kind of a comfortable width apart, so maybe about hip width or so. And then bend the right knee. Reach back with your right arm. See if you can grab the right foot. And then slowly begin to pull that right shin close to the floor as far as you go until doesn't go anymore, right? So this is a yang posture because you're really kind of pulling down on that until most of us feel some kind of stretch in the front of the thigh. So this is a yoga class. Remember to breathe here. And then maybe after your next breath, release that. We'll do the other side here. So come back to Sphinx here. And now it's the other knee that bends. Reach back with the other arm. See if you can find that foot. Same thing. Now you just pull that foot in as far as it will go. And don't worry how far it goes. Maybe just reaching back and getting the foot is enough. So that's your posture. And then once you kind of use a little bit of oomph with your arm, until you're feeling a good amount of tension in the front of that other thigh. Maybe again, come back to your breath and hold this for 1 breath. And then you can go ahead and release. And now we'll work our way around into getting into position for the hand to big toe poses here. And like I said, instead of holding a strap with my hands, which most of you are probably doing at home, unless you just happen to have a fancy strap system like this. Incidentally, this is an extra long strap because I'm kind of an extra tall guy, and typical straps at yoga studios are actually not this long. So if you are a particularly tall person, you're going to have to get a really specialized strap. You can't find these in stores. I had to special order these. You'll wrap the strap, I'm going to wrap this strap around my torso. And I'm going to start off with my left leg here. And I'm going to wrap the strap around the left leg. And actually, let me do this the other way here. So notice I'm getting this all set up in a seated position. It's just because it's way easier to do this than when I'm lying down. So now I'm already a seated position, and so now I will lie down. And then the strap is long enough so I can comfortably raise my left foot up into the air here. And then what I want to make sure I have is that the strap is up as high as I can get it. So it's trying to get the strap so it's just underneath and almost touching my armpits here. This just makes it more stable, so the strap already holds. So notice the advantage to this here. I can just lay back and just hold this without any arms. Otherwise, if I have to hold my arms, I'm kind of a big, stiff guy. So if I have to hold the strap with my arms are going to get tired out if I hold this for 3 minutes on each orientation. So if you're only doing this with your arms and your arms are getting tired, maybe just go for 2 minutes and then come out. So I'll start the timer here for this first side. And got a lot to go through because there's a lot of technical issues if you're trying to do it the way I'm doing it here. So the idea is you want to create a yin position. So notice it's just gravity in the strap that's holding me in place. Now all I want to do is feel something and then try to soften that area. For me and for most of us, we're feeling it somewhere in the back of this leg here. Again, you're not worried about the angle. If you're ultra flexible, maybe your toe is right next to your face here. If you're a little bit stiffer than I am, maybe the leg's at a lower angle. Doesn't really matter. You're just going until you're feeling something here, and your edge might be subtle. So for postures like this, my window between feeling nothing and feeling pain, very small, just a few inches. So I'm trying to find that sweet spot in between nothing and pain, and that's my edge window. And when I find it, then I adjust the strap so that it's there. And the idea with the rest of your body is you're just trying to keep a nice neutral spine with your torso lying on the ground here. So if you're in a forward fold because your tailbone and hips are lifted, then maybe ease off the strap so that you can come back to a nice comfortable, so your head and your upper body is comfortably resting on the ground. Arms can be up to the side if you're doing the strap situation like I'm doing. Otherwise, your arms are holding on to the straps, maybe clutching them for dear life here, just to maintain your edge, in which case it's not yin in the arm, it's very yang in the arms because you've got muscles engaged here. You are trying to soften in this leg and the hip here, and just notice and feel the tension. So if it's painful, that's too much tension, that's more than you need to notice. You want to back off and just find a light bit of sensation here. So you don't want to overdo this, or you could actually injure yourself if you're an athlete and you're trying to rip your hamstring off of your pelvic bone. That's not going to be very, very useful. So about 3 or 4 more breaths here. Remember, this is this is for the 3-minute hold time. So maybe you're already done with this orientation and you're taking a break. For those that are challenging yourselves and trying to stay for the 3 minutes, you get a couple more breaths here. Remember, this is yin, so the idea is to feel stable and relax the muscles, and we do that through a 3-step process. But I'll move into the next orientation now. So we're done with the 3 minutes in this orientation. The next one is the external orientation, where we'll slowly lower the leg out to the left side. So if you're holding your leg with your strap, and you just hold the strap with your left hand and allow everything to slowly go over to the side. If you're using the strap like me, you have to really do some wiggling and adjusting to allow that leg to go. You might have to loosen the strap up. So there's a lot of technical difficulties with using the strap. The advantage is, and I have to readjust it around my torso here too, you can too. The advantage is once I'm set up, my arms are free again here, where you may again be holding on for dear life with your left hand. And again, if that's the case, then my suggestion is don't stay for the whole 3 minutes. Stay for about 2 minutes at most. So to keep your arms from just like completely giving out. Otherwise, this is an upper body yang workout rather than a lower body leg workout here, which is kind of what we want. We want a yin practice here. And it's good to remind ourselves what the principles of yin are, because they're sometimes a little bit different at the end than a yang practice. We're trying to get into joints and bones and deep connective tissue. So we want to find our edge, we want to find our shape that fits us. Second, we want to, once we found that shape, that's hard enough to do. Once we found that shape, we want to stay for a while. And that while is several minutes rather than several breaths. So today, the challenge and the intent is to stay for 3 minutes, whereas a lot of us has probably done this exercise, but we've only stayed for maybe 30 seconds to a minute on a side. 3 minutes will have a whole different effect and feeling here. And it's kind of hard work to go through these different orientations. So maybe this is a good practice in and of itself. That's why I'm kind of just having this as an individual practice here. So we're about halfway through on this side. If your arms are starting to get tired, then give yourself another good 2 or 3 or 4 breaths, and then maybe give your arms a rest here if you're holding on the strap with your arms. Otherwise, the third principle to yin is, of course, time. And we're noticing and maintaining our edge by noticing our breath and noticing the sensations. Therefore, if you're not feeling anything, you don't really know if you're at a good edge or not. It might be appropriate if you're dealing with an injury, but if you have fairly healthy tissues, then you probably want to feel a little bit to know that you're at that stopping point of your body. And then maintain this for a healthy amount of time, which is different for each one of us. Since I'm kind of instructing this practice, so I have to arbitrarily pick times, and with experience I've found that most people can kind of get through about 3 minutes, although for some of us maybe 2 minutes is more appropriate here. So about 4 or 5 more breaths on this side. So the common English name for these series of postures are the hand to big toe poses. This comes from the traditional Sanskrit name for the postures, which is Supta Padagustasana. That's a mouthful, and you don't have to remember that because there won't be a quiz at the end of this. But it roughly translates into hand-toe pose. Supta means supine or reclined. So it's literally saying laying on your back with your hand touching your toe if you're flexible enough. For most of us, we need a little bit of help from a strap here. So when you're ready, slowly bring your foot back up straight here. So again, you can use your left hand in both hands if you're just holding the strap, or you have to use a little bit of adjustment here. Now we're coming into a spinal twist. So I'm moving this left leg all the way over here. I'm interested in the spinal twist, not the internal rotation. So I noticed a lot of instructors do different things here. They either have you just move the leg over and keep your hips flat because they're wanting to get your hip socket, the internal rotation of the hip socket. That's wonderful. That's not my intent. I want to do the full spinal twist, which emphasizes the twist on the spine and not so much the internal rotation of this left hip socket. So you'll go ahead and slowly lower that left leg all the way over to the left. You're stacking the left hip on top of the right hip so that your spine is twisting and you're trying to lower the left shoulder back. So it's kind of hard to see here because I'm facing you, but you can see that my hips are twisted to the side and I'm trying to get my upper shoulders towards the ground. That means my spine is in a twist. And even though my spine is in a twist, I'm feeling a lot of this in, if I was holding the strap, I would be pulling on the strap with my right hand. And I would be feeling a lot of this in the side. I'm still feeling a lot of this in the bottom of the leg here. Your arms can be out to the side. Your head can just be in a neutral position, gazing up towards the ceiling. Or if you think it's okay for your head and your neck, you can look and turn away from your leg just to get a complete spinal twist here. And we'll stay here for a couple more minutes here on this orientation. If you notice closely, my leg is maybe slightly floating. This is okay for me, I'm fine with this. You may not be fine with this. There might be some kind of instability you're feeling, in which case, use another prop. Like I've got a pillow here, and you can, maybe you have a bolster, maybe you have some books, stuff that is a prop underneath the leg so that it can feel a little bit more supported. Although with time, if I stay here long enough, my foot will actually eventually like touch down onto the ground because things are releasing and relaxing and opening here. You'll notice that too if you keep up a yin practice long enough. You'll notice your body kind of oozes deeper into the poses, mainly due to muscle relaxation. Your muscles are finally giving up fighting the posture. And that's an indication that you truly are physically relaxing into the posture, and that just translates to more openness and more range of motion here. You're not going to see a lot of increase of range of motion in your more stiffer ligaments and yin tissues, unless you practice over time for months and years, and then you will. So about 4 or 5 more breaths on this side here. Notice your breath. Notice where you're feeling. If you're not feeling anything, maybe pull on the strap some more. If you're holding it, let it go if you're feeling too much. Maybe take a break if your arms are tired. Otherwise, we're going to stay here and contemplate the boring name of hand to big toe poses for a series of exercises that's pretty intense when you practice them at this level, i.e. stay in them for so long. So a favorite cartoon character of mine from old was the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon strip. And Calvin was contemplating the very boring name for the theory of the beginning of the universe, which was the Big Bang. Calvin said, Boy, the Big Bang is just such a boring name. He says, I want to name this, I want it to have a more exciting name. So he decided they should have called it the Horrendous Space Kablooey. So if hand to big toe pose is just too boring for you, you can always call these series of postures the Horrendous Space Kablooey postures here. So just one more breath here. And then when you're ready, again, if you have the left foot with your right hand, slowly bring yourself, unwind out of the twist here. And then if you're using a strap, release that left leg. And for a moment, just come to extending both legs side by side. Kind of grow yourself long through both legs. And then just decide how the left leg, so this is a very unbalanced state. We just work the heck out of the left leg. Right leg hasn't even started yet. Or if you've done the right leg, then we're going to do the left leg, whatever the other leg is here. And just feel how they feel. Maybe one feels longer than the other. I don't know here. So this is the reverberation time. But we'll go ahead and get started on the right leg now. So once again, take your strap, wrap it around the bottom of the right foot. Extend the right leg up into the air till it's roughly straight. Extended is a more proper term. So obviously my leg is not straight. It's not going to be straight here. This is as straight as I can get my leg here. And you don't have to worry about how straight your leg is either. You do want it as extended as you can get your leg. And then you might have to adjust the strap if you're doing something technical like I'm doing with this strap here. And if you're just holding on to the strap, you're holding on with both hands and then you're trying to find that edge. You're adjusting. You're pulling the leg in, noticing how that increases the pressure, letting it go, and then finding that window where you can say, okay, I think I can hold this for 3 minutes. And your 3-minute edge might be less deep than your 30-second edge. So if you are going to try to hold this for 3 minutes, maybe don't go so deep, because you know you're going to stay here longer. And then we'll stay here for a little bit of time. So these series of postures primarily work, like I said, the back and the sides of the legs here. This is a really good series for, traditionally we say it's good for runners, but it's for anybody that runs or bikes or walks or stands or sits. If any of those kind of resembles you, this is a pretty intense practice that a lot of people find very useful. It can get kind of monotonous because we're always just constantly kind of working with our legs, and it can also get really intense because it's just one intense bit of tension after another. That's why I'm saying you have to notice what you're really feeling and use that. Trust that as your feedback rather than what an instructor like I am telling you. So, like I said, I'm picking 3 minutes. You might decide you want to stay here for 5 minutes, or maybe 1 minute is enough. So again, ultimately, you need to adjust your practice for your unique being. And that's easy to do when you're at home and you're just watching a video on YouTube, because you can always ignore the video, you can stop the video. When you're in a live class where there's other people around, the social pressure might make you do something that is inappropriate for you. And so it's really hard, it's a lot harder to do your own thing in a situation where there are real people around you here. And the idea in yoga is it's really valuable when you can get into a space where you can overrule that. It's like, oh, I don't have to be doing what the person next to me is doing. I don't have to do what the instructor is telling me to do. I got to do my version of this here. So speaking of your version, we've hit the 2 minute, we're a little bit past the 2 minute mark. So if your arms are getting tired because you're holding onto the strap, this is the time where you can give yourself a break. Your arms have done their work. You've got a good amount of tension in the back of that leg. So give yourself permission to take a break if you need to take a break here. Otherwise, if you think you're good for another minute or so, then we'll hang on here for 4 or 5 more breaths or so. And this is a good chance to come back to your internal landscape. Notice your breath. Notice your sensations. Maybe you got to make an adjustment. I've been here for a while. I can get a little bit more tension in the back of my leg now here, so I can adjust my strap. This is the beauty of having this fancy yoga strap now. It's like, okay, if I need a little bit more tension, if I need to change my edge, all I got to do is bring that leg in some more. Whereas if you're holding this with your hands, then you just like maybe try to pull it in some more here. Or maybe your hands and your arms are getting really, really tired. That's usually my problem. That's why I got this strap, is because I over-focus on getting worn out in my arms, where the point to this practice is really getting the tension in the legs. So I finally broke down and got the fancy strap here, because it just turns into a much better yin practice here. So next orientation from here is this externally rotated orientation. So slowly begin to lower your right leg out to the right. Again, you're going to clasp the strap with the right hand if you're holding on to a strap here. Or if you're trying to do the complicated strap like I am doing, then you just simply reorient the strap. I'm going to have to loosen up my strap here and start over here with a looser strap, so I can get that leg down and out to the side. And then once it's at its stopping point, then I can readjust the strap here. I have to readjust it around my torso to get it up and over the top of the torso. And again, once I've got this set up, I'm in a yin state again, because the strap and the floor is doing all of the supporting. Now all I got to do is the other two principles of yin. I just have to be patient, and I just have to let some time pass. So a few more minutes here on this side here. And then just notice. Notice if your edge has changed after a few breaths, or after a minute, or after 2 minutes. Notice where your focus is. Like I was mentioning earlier, you're holding the strap with your hand, and your hand is, and your arm is about done with the holding. Then that might take the majority of your attention. You're probably saying to yourself, oh, I wish this was over with because my arms are so tired. And the idea is yeah, that's going to happen. The real intent of practice is to just notice where you're feeling this in the leg. Since we're all different, since we all have a unique build, I'm not really sure where you're feeling this, because you can feel this in different places. And the idea is for you to notice. So take the time right now. Notice where the physical sensations are. Maybe they're not even in the leg. Maybe they're somewhere else. If they are in the leg, notice where in the leg. Now, I can tell you where I'm feeling it, but that doesn't do you any good. It tells you some trivial information about me. And generally that's not going to be useful for a yoga practice where you're trying to do this for your own self-care and for your own benefit. Here. So we're at the 2-minute mark here in this orientation. Again, I'm mentioning that because for a lot of us, 1 to 2 minutes is quite enough for this series. Like usually, sometimes just one orientation of this can be enough. And we're doing 3 different orientations. So it's quite a workout for each leg. Luckily, this poor left leg is all done. So it can just rest, right? And it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be straight. The toes don't have to be pointed up. It's just resting. It's done its hard work. So the knee can be bent. It can be rolled out to the side because this is yin. It's not about what it looks like. It's about what it's feeling inside and where your intent for practice is. And the physical intent is to kind of work the lower legs, to kind of work the hips. And I think most of us feel that when we go through this here. So one more breath here. And then maybe use your next exhale to bring that leg back up to center. Maybe pause and center. Now we're doing the twist again. So not the internal rotation, which is good. Maybe you want to do that in preference to the twist. And then you can do that. You can just move, keep your hips flat, but move the right leg over to the left as far as it goes. And then you can just use the strap to hold it there. But I'm doing the twist. So for the twist, I'm shifting my whole pelvic area onto its side, which means the right leg goes clear over to the side, all the way close to or on the ground. But I'm trying to keep my upper body flat on the floor here. The outrigger arms work well for keeping the upper body flat here. And again, since this is a twist, you decide what you want to do with your neck. It can just look up in a neutral position, or it can look away from the extended leg here. And again, if you're holding the strap with your hands, you're holding the strap now with your left hand, and your right hand has released it and is out to the right to encourage this right shoulder. Come down here. And once you've found this, we'll go ahead and just kind of reside here. So in yoga, we often say we hold a pose. And I use that jargon whenever I'm talking about posture. I'm in a posture, I'm holding the posture, but in English, the word hold implies kind of a yang connotation. You're using muscular energy to freeze yourself in place. And even though we use the same jargon in yin, we're not so much holding a posture, but just living, residing in the posture, right? Because we're not wanting to engage our muscles to freeze ourselves in shape and to keep ourselves rigid. We're using the props. Our main prop in yin is the floor and gravity. So we use Earth's gravity and the floor and a little bit of the shape of our body to maintain the posture. If we can't do that with just those tools, then we use other tools like a strap here. And then we soften and we settle. And we let our body, we encourage our body to be quiet. That is minimal muscular movement or muscular engagement. That can help if our mind can be quiet too. Well, it doesn't have to be quiet. And for most of us in this modern global culture, it's really hard for us to, because we're programmed to have a busy mind. And it's not going to become unbusy with simple commands. Okay, brain, stop thinking. Yeah, it's not going to stop thinking. But what we can do is we can shift our focus from the nature of our thoughts to the breath, to the sensations that we feel running through our leg. That's yoga in a nutshell, is instead of noticing your thoughts, you're noticing the tension that you're creating in the postures. You're noticing the quality of your breath. So you're shifting your focus from something that's centered in your brain to being centered in your rib cage, or centered in whatever the part is that's feeling the intensity in the posture here. So just 3 more breaths on this side. We're almost through. You can see light at the end of the tunnel here. And then if you're ready, slowly bring that leg back up to center. Slowly being the watchword here. When you get back up to center, then slowly bend the knee, release that leg. We're done with whatever we've been using as a strap here. Maybe lengthen out both legs long here. And then just a couple of integration postures to end the practice here. So first we'll try a little bit we'll try bridge pose. So bridge is a young back bend here. Bend your knees, put your feet on the floor about hip width apart. Arms are extended alongside your torso here. And then rooting through the bottoms of your feet and your shoulders. Engage your muscles and lift your torso up towards the ceiling your hips up towards the ceiling as far as they go. You can just stay here, or if you want to, you can roll the heads of your arm bones underneath your torso, clasp your hands behind your low back. And then root through your feet some more. See if you can push your hips up towards the ceiling just a little bit higher. And then release your hands, release your shoulders. Very slowly lower yourself back down to the ground. Move your feet away from each other a few inches. Maybe all the way out to the edges of the yoga mats. And then a little bit of reclined windshield wiper. So gently lower your knees to one side. Bring them back up to center, lower them to the other side, and then maybe a few more cycles of this. So 2 or 3 more cycles, just to release all of the tension. So that might have been building in the hips during the hand to big toes pose, horrendous space kablooey series of postures. And then at some point, feet come back together. Gently roll yourself to one side. Bring yourself up to sitting. And you can always add some meditation or shavasana or some other integrative postures. This concludes this briefer yin practice. So always remember, the universe is ecstatically joyful that you are here. Namaste.